cameras, we need to install the 2040. A couple things here. First of all, always use high quality, and I will say, American made, domestically made cable. Make sure you use good cable and good connectors. For your connectors, if you don't have a tool set to do it, the one I recommend is the EZ RJ45 from Platinum Tools. I could talk about that for half an hour, but we don't have time. Just trust me. That's the tool. If you haven't bought one yet, that's the tool set to buy, and those are the plugs to buy. They give you a very sure connection. Make sure when you're installing your cable, you don't excessively bend it or pull it. Remember that the conductors inside that roll of Cat5e cable are solid copper. They're not stranded. And if you flex them excessively, you pull them too hard, you can break the conductors. That's not good. So make sure you're pretty gentle with the cable. Also remember your cameras and encoders are going to need power. So you're going to have to power them up in some form or fashion. And I'm going to show you later how we ping our devices to make sure that they're on the network. But the first step is going to be to wire your devices that are wired or going to be wired, to wire them into the network, to hang the cameras, and to get them ready to plug into the network. Now, in terms of the addressing, and this is where most of the questions come in, we have to understand how our customer's network is addressed. And it's a very easy thing to do. Most of the time, our customers are going to have what's called a Class C network. The Class C network is going to start 192.168. Usually it's 192.168.1. In a typical IP, what's called an IPv4 address that you see on the screen, we've got the four groups, the 192, the 168, the .1, and the 1. In a Class C network, the first three groups stay the same. So every device on that network, its IP address, now we've got those MAC addresses, those are pre-programmed. We don't change them. But the IP address is the address we change. The IP addresses go along with the MAC address in every data packet that goes through the network. The IP address we're going to use, if it's a typical Class C network, is going to be 192, or it's going to be like this, 192.168.1. The first three groups on every device on that network, the first three groups must match. The last group only is the variable. It's also important to know that every device on a local network must have a unique local IP address. You cannot duplicate IP addresses on a local network, or else you got big problems. There are two ways that IP addresses get put into devices on networks. There's Dynamic Host Control Protocol, DHCP, and there's static addresses. Dynamic addresses are where you turn on your PC and your PC calls out to the network and says, hey, somebody give me an address. And there's a device on the network called the DHCP server that issues an address to the device. Along with, it issues the IP address, the subnet mask, and the default gateway, and it issues a lease time. And that's great for the people who are just computer users. They don't have to know how to put an IP address in their computer. The alternative to DHCP is called static IP addressing, and that's where we have a static address. The technician goes into the device and programs the address and says, you are going to be this address, and you're going to stay this address, this IP address, until I change you. For all security devices, not just the Nuo device, but the IP cameras, video encoders, intercoms, access control panels, all these devices that are physical security, they need static IP addresses. That's why it's underlined. Remember that. We want static IPs for our cameras, for our DVRs, and all the devices we're putting on a local network. You got to have them because we have to be able to call those devices up and look at the pictures. And if the IP address changes, where did it go? We don't know. So that's why we put static IPs in our devices. Our devices, as they go on the network, are servers, and servers in networks need static IP addresses. Now, when you plug in your 2040, initially it's going to ask for a DHCP address, but you're going to want to change this. This is an important thing to know. You want to change it to a static IP address. You've got to do this, and I'm going to show you exactly how in just a couple of minutes. And it's very important that you do not duplicate an IP address. You should pick the addresses you're going to use for the cameras and the 2040, and then you should test. I'm going to show you how to test to make sure that those addresses are not in use at that particular, by any other device on that network. To do